Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the viewers, to get a closer look at the candidates who are running to represent us. We've taken questions from social media, through email, civic groups. Like I said, we've gathered all kinds of information and questions about topics that are important here in our community, and we're going to discuss this today with our guest. This is all leading up to the general election, which is on November 8th, so it's important that we all get informed so then we can go vote on that day. Today, our guest is Representative Dan Pfister, and he is our current representative from the 56th District. So let's welcome Representative Pfister.
Thank you.
All right.
It's good to be here.
Well, we're so glad you're here. And for some reason, if there's people out in our viewership that don't know who you are, why don't you just take a minute and introduce yourself and
I can do that.
Why you're running for re-election.
Sure. I'm Dan Pfister. I represent the 56th District, which is geographically about half of Franklin County. I've got all of Woodford and then a good piece of Jessamine County as well. I'm a father and a grandfather. I've been married 44 years to the love of my life, and we live over in Woodford County. I grew up on a farm. I've got a good work ethic that came from that, and something that my father taught me was to give back to our community. And that's what I've tried to do my entire life. And that's what's so special about this job is I get to really make a difference for people. And I enjoy that. And I want to thank the people who voted and put me here for the privilege of being here.
So will this be your third term?
No, it's the fourth race. I ran twice and lost.
Okay.
Then I won, and
Okay.
now I'm back for re-election.
Okay.
So I'm dedicated to the job.
Been around.
I'm not just looking for a spot to light. I
Sure.
want to do the job. So.
Okay. So being, in our state legislature, and then moving forward, what are some of your priorities for the future of Kentucky?
Well, I think we're off to a good start.
Mm-hmm.
We got the state back open from the pandemic. I think we're pretty much through a lot of those issues, but we still rank 48th in the nation for workforce participation. We've got to get our people back out on the job, if
Mm-hmm.
you will. I want to continue to work on our tax code. I've been a big proponent of a fair tax, do a sales tax kind of thing. I don't like to penalize people for earning money,
Mm-hmm.
but let's tax them when they spend it. And that's something that you've got a lot of little cash economies running
Yeah.
around that are avoiding taxes now. It includes them. It's fair to everybody.
Okay. Well, let me give a little context on that
Sure.
for people who may not be as in the know as you
Right.
are,
Okay.
obviously.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. Lately, there's been efforts to change the tax code to move to a more consumption-based tax code,
Right.
and which is expanding the sales tax and reducing individual income tax.
Right.
So obviously, so that's moves that you agree with.
That is moves I agree with. Actually, we have already done that.
Okay, yeah.
House Bill 8.
Okay.
This past session, past regular session. We had
Yeah.
a special in between. But,
Yeah.
what it did is based on certain triggers in the economy, it will lower the income tax, which is currently at 5%, down to 4.5%, and then 4%, and continue till it's gone. We hit those triggers, so in January, your state income tax, personal state income tax, will be at 4.5% versus 5%, which is what you had last year. We're well on track to go to 4% in the following year. So hopefully in just a few years, we'll be done with the state sales or the state income tax.
Okay. For individuals.
For individuals, right.
All right. That was my question way down the road, so you just jumped right in there.
I'm glad to be of service.
In general, but before we get started into specific issues, I want to just talk about philosophies and where we are. how do you feel? Do you feel like there's a good relationship, or do you feel like there's a political divide just in America itself? And how do you feel like you want to address that?
Well, I hear a lot about that.
Okay.
But I don't see as much of it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there are some philosophical differences within families and parties and everything. We feel that. I don't know why that is. I don't know that was there years ago or is bad. But in Frankfurt, you know, it saddens me really, because I get done at a day's work, you know, in the Capitol on the floor. You go and get in the car and turn the radio on, and I hear about things, number one, that didn't happen. And number two is how we didn't work together. Well, better than 90% of the bills that we pass are either unanimous or heavily bipartisan, you know. There's a few that we're going to disagree on, and that's healthy. That's why they've got 138 people in the legislature. You know.
Well, the Republicans do hold supermajorities in
Do
both
hold
chambers.
supermajorities.
So, what does that mean for those who are in the supermajority? Does that preclude you from having to work more with the minority caucus?
No, actually, I have done things with minority members. The caucuses don't necessarily work directly, but
Sure.
I hadn't been. What it does is it gives me a place at the table. It gives me a voice, and allows me to represent the people of my district.
Right.
We had a deal when I first came in. Hadn't been maybe a couple of weeks. We were working on the budget, and Representative Graham, who has the other half of Franklin County, gave me a call, and I, you know, we were in the middle of COVID. We're locked down. Nobody knows anybody. You know. And we talked, and next thing I know, he came down to my office, and we worked on an issue with a bill that he couldn't do on his own.
Sure.
I didn't know about it yet.
Yeah.
And he told me who to talk to and whatnot, and I made the phone call, and it was taken care of that quickly. But it was something he couldn't do.
Right.
And I was more than happy to do it to help the people of Franklin County, you know.
Well, that's a good thing.
And that's what we're doing. I carried a bill for that was previously written. Well, I amended a bill that was previously written and passed by Susan Westrom out of Fayette County. One of her constituents wanted to make some changes in it. They called me. I got it passed on the last day of session.
Yeah.
You know, we work back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes there's just some things are non-starters, you know.
Right. Right.
And
Has there ever been a time in your career in the legislature, or really before that, that you've shown independence from your party? Majorly important.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not afraid to speak up if I disagree. I will listen. I'm not the guy that's going to get out here and start a fight just because I want my own way. But I will let people know, and I have not voted on bills or voted against bills that people in my own party have brought because I didn't agree with them.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm going to ask you what the biggest issue facing the 56th district is, but then would that be different than what you would think the biggest issue for people in Franklin County is?
No, I don't think so. I think it's getting our economy on track.
Okay.
You know, we've got to get stability back in our families. We've got this inflation and I don't know, the previous tax and spend mentality we used to have, and it's left us in a bad place.
Yeah.
We need to bring us back on track, brighten our future, and give our kids something that they can dream about. You know, my day you dreamt big. You didn't expect to be president or an astronaut.
Why not?
But you could dream about doing it, and then you had to, you know, the avenues were there if you were lucky enough to follow through.
Okay. Well, as you well know, Frankfurt is the home to more state retirees than any other community.
Right.
And the only authority to grant a cost of living adjustment lies with the General Assembly.
Right.
And the last time that happened was 2011. So, as the legislator who will represent the folks here in Franklin County, what kind of commitment can you make regarding protecting the state retirement fund and supporting a cost of living adjustment?
Well, let me put it this way. First off, I've got a rule as far as legislation. I don't commit to anything that I haven't read or seen or understand, you know. But I am 110% behind preserving our pension system. There were some changes made in, I believe it was 13, it was before I came on the scene, that I think helped strengthen it and get it on the right track. We have been fully funding it ever since. And I understand there's some issues in how that was restructured that limits our ability to give raises. But I've heard from more than one state retiree.
Really?
You know, some of them are family, some of them are friends, and yes, I do want to help them out and get them what we can.
Sure.
No doubt about it.
Another issue, and this is statewide, and well, on the bright side, the Kentucky legislature approved 8% across the board raises for state government workers this year.
Right.
However, educators across the state are disappointed that the General Assembly did not approve an adequate increase in state funding for across-the-board raises for teachers. So, do you feel that the legislature is risking worsening a teacher shortage that we have here in Kentucky, you know, for such an important system, an education system?
You're mixing apples and oranges.
Okay,
here.
tell me about it.
Okay. See, we only got a half an hour. I'll try to be brief. First off, and I know that it's been argued both ways, but the teachers work for their school districts. They don't work for the state. They do pay in the state and retirement and all that, but they're not state employees. And each district has its own financial issues and things that they have to overcome. We put enough in the budget. The budget we passed was, the governor even said it was an amazing budget. You know, I mean, everybody liked it. Some people wanted us to spend more.
Sure.
But we fully funded everything that was there. And the school boards have the money to give a raise. Some did, some didn't. But that's not within our purview to force them to do that.
So I know that the state has a record amount of rainy day funds right now and surplus. Is that something that would be an option if it became, you know, down to the issue of teachers desert, because they don't get Social Security?
I realize that.
Yeah.
I realize, you know, I actually thought about being a teacher at one time, and I'm not man enough to do that job, so I didn't do it. But I have teachers in my family. Both of my sons have taught. Three of my four sisters have taught. I've got aunts, cousins, all that kind of stuff. I respect teachers, and I understand how hard they work. And the things that they do out of their own pockets for their children, setting up classrooms and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I've lost my train of thought here. I'm sorry.
I was asking you about the surplus funds.
And I would be willing to dip into those some to help the school boards have the funds to do it, but I'm still opposed to doing it from the state level. We don't need to do unfunded mandates. Okay. But that big, you want to call it a rainy day fund or a budget surplus, whichever, but having that money, you know, go back a couple of years, we didn't have but a couple of $1 million in that account. And if funds were cut off to the state, they could only go a couple of days. And it affected our credit ratings, it affected everything. We still don't have a month's worth of rainy day fund, but we've got enough surplus that when we had the tornadoes out in West Kentucky, we could step up and do something. We were able to act in Eastern Kentucky here just a few weeks ago. We were able, you know, the Blue Oval SK battery plant in West Kentucky, we had the money to fund that economic development plan. We wouldn't have had that without the fiscal policy that we've enacted since, I guess, 17, and built that fund up.
Okay.
And that fund also allows us to give those tax cuts we talked about a few minutes ago.
Okay.
So,
I want to talk a little bit about some things that passed this year and
Okay.
give you the opportunity to talk about them.
Sure.
An education bill that passed this year was Senate Bill 1.
Okay.
It started out as a provision. It gives district superintendents the power to set curriculum and hire principals, which had previously been with the site-based decision-making council.
right.
Why was that important to do?
Well, the superintendents, and I've got 4 districts within my house district, 4 school districts, and I've talked to all of the superintendents and school board, not all the school board members, but to some of them. And these principals are employees of the school board, you know. The chairman of the, or not the chairman of the board, but the, my mind, it's something when you get on TV and get nervous, you know.
That's okay.
The superintendents are the guys in charge. They're the CEO.
Yeah.
But they can't hire and fire their principals. It's important that they be able to do that.
Okay.
And, you know, the site-based councils still have a voice and all that, but it goes back to the top where it needs to be.
Okay. Another provision of the bill is that it's adding restrictions on how history can be taught, especially concerning race. It's directing educators to teach American history in a way some teachers and historians says whitewashes the role of racism in shaping society. Do you have any concerns about these restrictions, or that this provision inserts itself into the decision-making of local school districts?
Well, I'm concerned anytime you're limiting education, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there needs to be limits, you know, for age appropriate and that sort of thing. But what we're talking about here, and we'll just go ahead and jump to the finish line, is the CRT issue. You know, that is actually a theory that came out in a political science class, graduate level, college political science class, where adults are discussing it, and it's trying to be filtered down into the lower grades of the schools. I have no problem with it at the college level. You know, that's great. Discuss it there. But the kids, first off, it's not a proven theory. And there's a lot of people on both sides of the ethnic issues and stuff that will argue that. But that's not something the kids need to be doing in grade school or middle school or something like that. It's not age appropriate.
Topic aside,
Okay.
it does include a list of documents that middle and high schools must embed in their curriculum. So again, that doesn't concern you that the legislature's telling local school districts what they should be?
You know, I haven't looked at that bill in 8 months or
Okay,
something. You know,
yeah.
I don't remember what documents they were, but I don't know. You know,
Okay. Well, that is a concern for people, so I just will make you aware of that then.
right? Okay. Well, and that's good. You know,
Yeah.
I tell people all the time I want to hear
Yeah.
good and bad.
Sure.
You know, that's how I do my job. I can't work in a cocoon here
Absolutely.
and not know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I want people to agree or disagree and tell me why.
Okay.
So I welcome that.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to the next one then.
Okay.
Senate Bill 83, passed by the legislature this year, bans trans girls from participating in girls' sports from 6th grade through college.
Right.
You supported that measure.
I did.
And why was that important to do? And more importantly, do you see any future consequences for this, like lawsuits or, how it affects the children?
Well, you can't worry about lawsuits.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anybody can sue anybody over anything. What does concern me is we've put a lot of effort nationally into like Title IX, isn't it, for girls' sports and things to help these young ladies learn and develop and do their thing. There is a difference between a biological male and a biological female. You know, even some of the people that have made the change and are competing will come out and say, there's a difference, you know?
Yeah.
It's not fair. I've talked to my own granddaughter, and she says, "Granddad, why can't they just go play on the boys' team, or why can't they get their own team? Why do they have to come mess up things for us?"
Okay.
You know, and it's not fair to these girls. Let them compete on a level playing field.
Okay.
So
Are you ready for the next topic?
I think maybe.
Okay. We're going to talk about reproductive rights.
Okay.
Okay. What is the legislature's role regarding reproductive health care, and do you think that it is an appropriate role?
I'm going to ask you to define that a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, you've kind of given a shotgun approach there. What can you narrow that down a little bit for me?
Okay, well, let's go with the, since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
And they're turning it over to the states.
Okay.
And so that puts it in the hands of the legislature.
Right.
Is that appropriate?
I think so.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of issues. Let me back up just a little bit.
Okay.
People are different.
Yeah.
You know, from county to county, city to city, state to state. Okay. And what may be acceptable in one state may not be in the other. So let the people that live there make those decisions. Just like any other law that we have in Kentucky, you know. I don't want the federal government running Kentucky or any other state, and I
Okay.
think it's legitimate for the lawmakers to listen to the people and make those decisions.
Okay. Well, what if the federal government came out and said, we're just banning abortion altogether? It's not the state's decision anymore. Would you in support of that?
That's for the same reason I just gave you,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want mandates from the federal government.
Yeah.
They came in here years ago and bought their way into a seatbelt law being a number one offense. You know,
Yeah.
there for a while you couldn't write it unless you had them for speeding or
Right.
something
I
else.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they threw some money into the, I don't know, transportation budget
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
and people caved and let them do it.
Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want Kentucky to make Kentucky laws for Kentucky people.
Okay.
You know.
Well, when we do have a amendment on the ballot, a constitutional amendment, the Yes for Life amendment. Can you explain to people what that is, because they may not even know about it? And is
I
that
can
something
do
you
that.
support?
I did support it. Put a lot of work into it. In fact,
Okay.
House Bill 91 was the bill that set that up. It's actually hanging on the wall in my office.
Okay.
I am very pro-life, and I will not apologize for that. You know, but what this amendment does not legalize or outlaw abortion.
What's it do?
It doesn't put any restrictions on it at all.
Okay.
What it does is I think it's 25 words. It says that there is nothing in the Constitution guaranteeing you a right to an abortion, and there is no requirement for tax dollars to be paid to fund that abortion.
Okay.
It doesn't say that the legislature can't open it up, close it down, whatever they want to do.
So why is it important to do?
It's important because, and we see it all the time, everybody complains about judges trying to legislate from the bench. As it stands right now, you get the right case before the right judge, and he can make the decision. You know, that's how we ended up with Roe versus Wade. And I remember when it was passed, people called it junk law back in '73. You know, but it stood the test of time until this year.
Yeah.
We don't need that kind of controversy here in Kentucky.
Okay.
If you want it legal, we can legalize it. If you don't, we can keep it illegal. We can make whatever changes in between, but don't allow one man or one woman sitting behind a bench to make that decision.
Okay. When the Supreme Court made that decision, Justice Thomas wrote in a concurring opinion that SCOTUS should reconsider all of the court's substantive due process precedents, including Obergefell versus Hodges, And then if they did that, if they started rolling those back, they would come back to the states to make those decisions on those things. Does that concern you? Are you ready for that?
Well, we're always ready for whatever comes at us, you know. If we're not, we're going to get ready real quick. I'm not familiar with those cases or what's going on there. But,
okay.
But
well, those are
I would like to
cases
have,
dealing with civil rights and LGBTQ issues.
I would like to have less authoritative mandates from the federal government and have it at the state level.
Okay.
You know?
One of those cases, the decision would, if it came back to the states, the Supreme Court would overturn the Obergefell versus Hodges is the one not guaranteeing a constitutional amendment to same-sex marriage.
Okay.
If that came back to Kentucky, is that something that you would support, overturn?
Well, like I said in the beginning,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sign on to a bill I haven't seen. You
Okay.
know? Some things you may not like on the surface, but
Right.
when you read into it, it's a good bill.
There's a lot in
Some
bills.
things sound good, and when you
Yeah.
read into it, it's a bad bill. So
Sure.
yeah,
Sure. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I keep an open mind. And
Well, I
do
appreciate
do
that.
what
We
needs
all
to be
should,
done.
right?
That's right.
One thing the General Assembly always should be doing is looking for new ways to generate revenue because we don't want to raise taxes, right?
Okay. I'm listening.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So that brings me to the sports betting issue because it has gotten traction
Okay.
lately.
Okay.
But can you explain to me the sports betting issue? Because I feel like, well, we have some betting in Kentucky, but then it's like, no, we're not allowing this betting. What's the issue
we're back
there?
down to that 30-minute limit again. You know, the Constitution sets limits on the kind of betting we can do
Okay.
and how it sets up. What they recently did with the historic horse racing, I guess, was what triggered it. They allowed the legislature to make a little bit more of the decision. Okay.
Yeah.
The issue with the sports betting is that you can take your phone out anywhere in Kentucky,
Yeah.
log into a site, and be betting. And there's
Yeah.
nothing anybody can
You can do it on
about
Derby Day or any day.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, I don't care if you like betting or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have people in the state participating in that, and they're unprotected. We got a claim, and I apologize for not knowing the issues of it, but there was a big claim where they had sued one of these poker sites or something, and
DraftKings, maybe.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But we used the money to do some work with gambling addiction and
Yeah,
stuff,
sure.
you know, which I think is appropriate. But those kind of things, we need to protect our people from as well. So if this guy can sit in his driveway and do this, and it's, you know, I'm not the guy that wants a casino on every corner,
Right,
you know.
right.
But I want to protect them if they are participating in
Right.
this, to where they can get their money back or have some sort of legal recourse
Yeah.
and not be ripped off by the vendor on the other end.
Yeah.
So,
Another bill that got some traction this year was House Bill 136, which was the medical cannabis bill.
right.
It was the second time the full House ever voted on the issue and the second time it passed. However, Senate leadership refused to assign the bill to a committee. It killed the bill. What is your position on the issue, and do you support the leadership's position on not even assigning it?
I'm not even going to get with the Senate. I mean, that's another animal down the hall. You know, I love those guys, by the way. But if you'll look at that bill, I voted against it.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. Well, I don't know. I guess I do have a problem with it. If there's something medical in the cannabis plant, which I'm assuming will be THC, that can be used, let's find out what we can use it for and how to use it and how to prescribe it and how to dose it, okay?
Yeah.
And we did that in the House. I don't remember the number, the bill, but we put in some money for some studies and whatnot. I think the governor got behind some of that.
Yeah.
But I've been to a lot of the programs that these groups put on, and they sound great. You know, a lot of anecdotal type evidence. People stand there and say, "Yeah, I threw away all these pills and I feel great." But it comes down to, give me a bag of weed and some papers and let me go self-medicate. And that's not medical, okay? I want it to be something where we know what it's doing. We don't know what the side effects are still yet, you know?
Yeah.
Let's research this and do it right. Protect our people,
Sure.
you know?
I have one more question.
Okay.
If reelected,
Right.
you go back, new session, what's the first bill you're going to file?
Well, I tell you what, I've already got it sitting on my desk.
Okay, bring it on.
We had, I don't know if anybody here noticed, but we had an issue with our unemployment system
Yeah.
about 2 years ago. Some of the changes that had been made at the federal level and whatnot affected our volunteer firemen. Okay, I have one in Woodford County. I had more than one, but I have one in particular in Woodford County who filed for unemployment, lost his day job, if you will, filed for unemployment and collected, but he continued to make fire runs.
Yeah.
And they get, I believe it's $32 a run as a per diem. Now, they're spending more than that in gas and clothes and time off from
Sure.
work and everything.
Yeah.
But that was considered a per diem and not salary for years. Somehow, following some federal codes, it got brought over and was made into salary. So they came back on him, and they were trying to collect $30-some thousand in fees and penalties and whatnot. I've got the bill written to make that per diem non-salary and to right the ship and treat these people the way they need to be treated. You know, most of Kentucky depends on volunteer firemen. And that's my number one bill sitting on my desk right now.
Noted.
So there you go.
Thank you very much. I
You're
sure do
welcome.
appreciate you coming here today. And right now I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak directly to our viewers and tell them why they need to come vote for you on November 8th.
Well, I made promises, you know, back at the last election. I wanted to get Kentucky back to work, get the businesses back open on Main Street, and we've done a lot of that, but we're not done. We've still got more to do, and I need your help to do that. Number one, I need you to reelect me, and number two, I need your input. We need to make a lot of little changes to bring stability back into our homes. You know, children don't know where their next meal is coming from a lot of times. We've got to fix that. We've got a lot of other issues just as near and dear to my heart as those that need to be worked on. But I cannot do it from my farm. I need to be at the Capitol, and I would appreciate your vote on November the 8th to put me there. I want our children to be able to dream big like I did when I was a kid, and like hopefully you all were able to. If you want to find out more information about me, you can go to danpfister.com. Call my legislative office at any time if you want to give me input on anything. Don't know what else to add to that other than thank you very much for the privilege of being your state representative.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming here and going through these questions that people have, and we appreciate your time. I know all of the candidates are really busy at this time, so again, appreciate you being here.
That was the big thing. People said, how is it since session was over and things slowed down, but they never have. So, thank you.
No, sure. And I want to thank our viewers for watching, because it is so important to get informed, because it is election season. And so that means it's time to go vote. So head out on November 8th, go vote, and when you're done, go home and turn it on Channel 10 and watch the live election returns that we'll have for you. We'll be down at the county clerk's office giving you the play-by-plays. So again, thank you so much for watching. It's election season, and that means it's time to vote, and your vote is your voice, so use it.